Good morning and welcome to our Sunday service. My name is Sarah Lindsay and I am the minister of the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood. A sincere thank you to the wonderful team who helps bring our services to life every Sunday. For over a century, the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood has been gathering in community. While for the moment we gather virtually, we take a pause at the beginning of our service to acknowledge that the congregational home we share in Ridgewood is on the ancestral lands of the Lenape people. We pause to remember that that ground was stolen and that even now it cries out for justice. May our remembering help us recommit to restoring wholeness to the earth and all its peoples. The Unitarian Society of Ridgewood is a home for liberal faith and free thinking, which has helped generations of seekers to deepen their understanding of themselves and of this world we share. Unitarian Universalism doesn't teach any one thing about God or the afterlife. Ours is a faith based on shared promises and a commitment to community. We do believe in the interdependent unity of all existence, and we do believe that healing love is accessible to us all. Here in our community, we celebrate each person, whatever their gender, sexual orientation, age, education, history, race, ethnicity, economic status. We celebrate and embrace you on your spiritual journey. If this is your first time visiting one of our Sunday services, we are so glad that you found us this morning and welcome. If you'd like to learn more about us, excuse me, about Unitarian Universalism, or if you want to just get connected to our online communications, please fill out the Google form that's being dropped into the chat or email our office at 113cottage@gmail.com or visit our website at uuridgewood.org. It is one of my great pleasures as a minister to help in the formation of ministers in training. And it is one of the great responsibilities of a congregation to provide space and time and resources for ministers in training to learn. Olas Carayannis is our field education student joining us this fall from Union Theological Seminary. He's working at USR on an archives and history project and is also helping lead elements of our service on Sunday mornings. This morning, though, we have the pleasure of him leading our entire service. I know you welcome Olas as I do. Just a reminder for all of you that after every service, we have our coffee hour. If you are new today, if you're just a visitor checking things out, please stay. Coffee hour is wonderful. Everyone is very friendly and it's a great way to get connected to folks. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning. We are the Piemontese family. I'm Erin, Mike is upstairs, and this is Nick and Luke. Say hi.
Hi. Hello.
Okay. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action as we gather together in the circle of community. Goodbye.
Bye.
Let us now take a deep breath and feel the air fill our lungs. Gathered up like sleeping flowers, let us now exhale. and feel the air rustle the waking leaves so freshly fallen. Let us now feel the gravity holding us to the sacred earth. And now let us feel the ambient air around our fingertips. Let all tension fall from our long week, and let us be here together, remote, but still here on this earth, remote, but still close. Take a deep breath and exhale.
Please join us for our hymn, Seek Not Afar from Beauty. The words will be on your screen.
Kristen.
Excuse me, Ron. I'm sorry. Not time for the hymn.
Time yet. 1 second.
I'm
Oh, the days of the pandemic, yes. So the United Nations designated this last Thursday the International Day of Rural Women, a day to lift up and give our attention to the multitude of women globally working and living in rural areas. And this is not an insignificant number of women. Globally, nearly 1/4 of all women work in agriculture, according to the UN. 1/4. The wealth inequalities that we know so well in our urban settings are often much higher in rural settings, where less than 20% of land holdings are held by women, and the pay gap between men and women is 40%. If rural women had equal access to agricultural assets, education, and markets, the number of hungry people in the world could be reduced by 100 to 150 million, according to a recent study by the United Nations. And coincidentally, yesterday was also the UN's International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. This day marks the 33rd anniversary of a call to action by the Catholic priest, Father Joseph Wierynski, for the world to eradicate extreme poverty. Father Wierynski was famous for using his platform to explain that extreme poverty was a violation of human rights. He said, and I quote, "Wherever men and women are condemned to live in extreme poverty, human rights are violated. To come together to ensure that these rights be respected is our solemn duty." So today we come together to celebrate and lift up the earth. In this celebration, it is vital that we recognize that the contemplation of Earth's majesty is a unique privilege. For many, the contemplation of the earth is limited to its daily effects on their lives. The world's homeless who feel the cruelness of the slow change to winter, and the world's poor for whom the earth's bounty is withheld. And so too should we celebrate the women who work to bring this bounty to all of our tables. The women who walk among the corn stalks and wheat fields, who have developed a deep understanding of the rhythms of the earth, and who have created a blessed practice of ensuring that Earth's precious gifts are shared. In reading about the International Day of Rural Women, I learned that 80% of households that lack direct access to water rely on women for water collection. I thought of this and I imagined the weight of the water, the various vessels used to collect and carry it, and the distances that it is carried. Water is what makes Earth different from every other mass of stone in the known universe. And I feel gratitude not just to the women of the world that carry such heavy burdens for the life of humanity, but also the earth for offering us this life. So in the spirit of the life-giving water which springs from the earth and the women who carry it, we gather together and sing this hymn.
Now, please join us for our hymn, Seek Not Afar for Beauty. The words are on your screen. Seek not afar for beauty, long it glows. Into wet grasses upload your feet. In earth, in sunshine, childish faces sweet. In stars and mountain summits topped with snows. Go not abroad for happiness behold. It is a flower blooming at your door. Bring love and laughter home and evermore. Joy shall be yours as changing years unfold. In wonder workings or some bush of flame, we look for truth and fancy it unseen. But in earth's common things it stands revealed. While grass and flowers and stars spell out her name.
Welcome to the second week of our journey through New Jersey, highlighting places and people associated with the Underground Railroad. This initiative is part of our own journey towards reckoning with history and racial justice, and our recognition of the people and places right here in New Jersey that played a role for freedom seekers. Today, we tell the story of Harriet Tubman and the goings-on during the turbulent pre-Civil War years in Cape May, New Jersey. Harriet Tubman is probably the most well-known figure associated with the Underground Railroad and its most famous conductor. Not only did she escape her own enslavement, but she risked her life many times over to guide others to freedom, returning to slaveholding areas, and through cunning, skill, and pure courage brought family and friends to freedom in the North. Born into slavery in Maryland, Harriet began her life of hard work at age 5. She suffered a brain injury in early adolescence when an overseer threw a 2-pound weight intended to stop a runaway, but instead missed and struck Harriet in the head. That injury produced a lifetime of headaches, seizures, and narcolepsy. During the Civil War, she was a cook, nurse, armed scout, and spy, and the first woman to lead a raid, the raid at Combahee Ferry, which liberated more than 700 enslaved people. In her later years, she was an activist in the women's suffrage movement. New Jersey played a role in Harriet Tubman's exploits within the bustling seaside resort town of Cape May. Such a town enabled Harriet to blend in and work, since New Jersey was the last of the northern slave states, and visitors would bring their slave servants to work there as they summered. That work enabled Harriet to replenish the funds needed to make her trips on the Underground Railroad. Harriet spent 3 summers in Cape May working and strategizing for her trips, which usually took place in the autumn when it was warm enough to travel yet got dark early. Here is a short clip from the Harriet Tubman Museum in Cape May, which explains the atmosphere of Cape May at the time.
16 miles in an open boat. 16 miles to freedom across the dark bay. The Freedom Run began at 10 o'clock on a June night in 1860. 6 slaves, men and women, found their way to the Maryland shore. They had a boat and planned to cross the Delaware Bay following the beam of the Cape May lighthouse. They hadn't gotten far when 5 white men in another boat attacked them. Hit with oars, then pierced by bullets, the determined freedom seekers still made their escape. Rowing fiercely, despite their wounds, they made it across the dark waters and landed on the Jersey shore.
The young women were very sick. The men were tried to their last extremity. They were not far from Cape May Lighthouse. William Still, Philadelphia Regional Coordinator of the Underground Railroad.
In the decade before the Civil War, many people fleeing slavery in Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia made their way to freedom across the Delaware Bay. But they were not the only ones coming to Cape May, a very popular seaside resort at the southern tip of New Jersey. Steamers brought Southern planters escaping the summer heat, and abolitionists and Underground Railroad leaders from Philadelphia. Cape May was the meeting place of North and South. They came for the ocean and the large, luxurious hotels, but there were tense times too. Fights broke out among slavers and abolitionists and the hundreds of free blacks working in the hotels. Into this scene walked 30-year-old Harriet Tubman, a freedom seeker from Maryland's Eastern Shore. She came to earn money to return to Maryland to free her family and friends.
I was free, but there was no one to welcome me to the land of freedom. I was a stranger in a strange land. And my home, after all, was down in the old cabin quarter with the old folks and my sisters and brothers. But to this solemn resolution I came. I was free, and they should be free also. Harriet Tubman.
Despite the price on her head, Tubman worked as a cook in Cape May the summer of 1852, perhaps earlier as well. In the fall of 1852, she left Cape May. She crossed the bay, rescued 9 people on the eastern shore, and led them to freedom in Canada. At the time, Cape May was alive with discussions and meetings of leading Philadelphia abolitionists and Underground Railroad leaders. There was the remarkable Stephen Smith, who had bought his freedom and become one of the richest black men in the country. Because of him, hundreds of enslaved people reached freedom, traveling in the secret compartments he built in his railroad cars. He built a summer home on Lafayette and Franklin Street. Right beside Smith's home was the Banneker House Hotel. Free black abolitionists from Philadelphia stayed there, and in its rooms they wrote resolutions denouncing slavery, which were circulated by Frederick Douglass in his newspaper. Across the street from Smith's house was a white Baptist church known for issuing anti-slavery resolutions. One prominent member was Joseph Leach, the local newspaper editor who reported on slave escapes to Cape May. "We glory in the spunk of our ebony friends," he wrote. Another longtime summer visitor to Cape May was a white Unitarian minister from Philadelphia, William Furness, who was known as a leading abolitionist. Furness called the fight over slavery a battle between barbarism and civilization.
If you visit Cape May in the future, plan to stop by the Harriet Tubman Museum and check out the resources about Harriet on our webpage to learn about the life of this hero and activist. Now, Kristen Plumley will help us locate Cape May on this stop on the Underground Railroad. Kristen?
Hello, everyone. You were sent a link in the invitation today to pull up your own map of New Jersey. I unfortunately, so ironically, have had connectivity issues this morning, so I couldn't print one out myself. But if you go to the USR website or onto the link that you used today to get onto this Zoom, there is a link where you can print out your own map of New Jersey, and it looks like the map of New Jersey. Like this one that I have here, except yours is on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So if you have that sheet, please get it out now, and we are going to locate Cape May on our map. So here for reference is Trenton. Here's Ridgewood. When you go down the shore, this is where you're going. And it leads us at the very bottom to Cape May. So I'm going to take our marker and put it right down here in Cape May, the second stop on our Underground Railroad journey.
Thank you, Kristen. And now Stephanie and Davis Gannon will tell you about a project that you can participate in that draws on the theme of the walk and helping those in need. Stephanie and Davis.
Hi, everybody. We're kicking off our Souls for Souls shoe drive today. To participate, it's really easy. You can drop shoes, old shoes, in the box on the front porch of Reeb. For this shoe drive, we can take any kind of shoe. So every time I talk to somebody, they say, this type of shoe, that type of shoe. It can be old sneakers. So I know people are like, you don't want my stinky sneakers. Yes, we do. Sandals, boots, even single shoes where you lost the other one. We're taking all of these shoes. You just drop them in the box on the porch at Reeb. We're also looking for a few people with Zappos accounts to print out free shipping labels. So this will allow us to get the shoes to Souls for Souls to be resold and used to make new shoes. So this allows us to ship these shoes for free to get them to the right place to be reused. Souls for Souls turns unwanted shoes and clothing into opportunity by keeping them from going to waste and putting them to good use, providing relief, creating jobs, and empowering people to break the cycle of poverty. Shoes you collect get funneled to developing countries where people start small businesses to sell them. By selling shoes, business owners have money to provide for their family, and people who need shoes get them at a price they can afford. By repurposing discarded shoes and clothing, you keep them out of landfills and help promote sustainability.
Please consider donating shoes to this drive or helping out by providing a Zappos label. If you want more information, reach out to me and my mom, Stephanie and Davis Gannon. Thank you.
Thanks for volunteering to help.
Good morning. I'm Kristen Blumel, a member of the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood. I add my welcome to those of everyone else who has talked to you this morning. It's wonderful to be with you. Every Sunday that we gather, we ask for an offering to support the work of this congregation. Our mission statement is to grow in mind and spirit, to act with love for justice, and to transform ourselves and the world. This congregational year will be a challenging one as we work to support each other through the continued pandemic, as our nation faces challenges in our political sphere, and as we all look towards the future. We are truly grateful for the way you have shown up and continue to show up with your hearts and minds open, with your helping hands ready, and with your generous offerings, ensuring the mission and work of this congregation that it can continue. We know that in this moment, there are among us those who are unable to financially support the congregation and instead find themselves in need of support. If this is you, please let us help. Reach out to Reverend Sarah, the office, the caring teams, or any member of the board, including myself. Now on your screen, you will see the instructions on how to give. Please give generously. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Louise Gluck is an American poet from the Northeast. Earlier this month, as you may have read, she won the Nobel Prize in Literature for her, quote, unmistakable poetic voice that with austere beauty makes individual existence universal. Gluck's poetry often invokes powerful and beautiful images of the earth and humanity's place within it. This morning, our poem that we will read is A Myth of Devotion, and it's from a series she wrote in the 2000s, which explores the myth of Persephone being taken to the underworld. A Myth of Devotion by Louise Gluck. When Hades decided he loved this girl, he built for her a duplicate of Earth. Everything the same down to the meadow, but with a bed added. Everything the same, including sunlight, because it would be hard on a young girl to go so quickly from bright light to utter darkness. Gradually, he thought he'd introduce the night, first as the shadows of fluttering leaves, then moon, then stars, then no moon, no stars. Let Persephone get used to it slowly. In the end, he thought she'd find it comforting.
a replica of Earth, except there was love here. Doesn't everyone want love? He waited many years, building a world, watching Persephone in the meadow. Persephone, a smeller, a taster. If you have one appetite, he thought, you have them all. Doesn't everyone want to feel in the night the beloved body, compass, pole star, to hear the quiet breathing that says, I am alive? That means also you are alive because you hear me. You are here with me. And when one turns, the other turns. That's what he felt, the Lord of Darkness, looking at the world he had constructed for Persephone. It never crossed his mind that there'd be no more smelling here, certainly no more eating. Guilt, terror, the fear of love, these things he couldn't imagine. No lover ever imagines them. He dreams. He wonders what to call this place. First, he thinks, the new hell. Then, the garden. In the end, he decides to name it Persephone's girlhood. A soft light rising above the level meadow behind the bed. He takes her in his arms. He wants to say, I love you, nothing can hurt you. But he thinks this is a lie. So he says in the end, you're dead, nothing can hurt you. Which seems to him a more promising beginning, more true.
Every Sunday, we take time for quiet. Quiet can be a luxury in times such as these, when so much is being asked of us in our homes, homes that were previously our sanctuary from these asks. In this space, we take the time to listen to our hearts, feel the rhythm of our breath, and feel the glory of our life. Please join me now as we bear witness to each other's celebrations and pains. Take a moment to write into the chat any personally significant joys or sorrows you wish to share, remembering only to share your own or those that you have explicit permission to share. Take a deep breath, relax. Feel the earth beneath your feet and the air surrounding you. Inhale through the nose, exhale from the mouth. And starting from your toes and slowly moving upward, feel any areas of tension and bid them to release. Today, we hold sorrow for those millions of Americans potentially facing eviction this winter or who are currently without a home. We hold sorrow for them and we pray that they may find warmth and shelter from the dangerous winter. Take a deep breath. Today, we also hold sorrow for the many dead, injured, and displaced in the face of increasing violence on the border of Azerbaijan and Armenia. We know that children are usually the first to suffer in such conflicts, and we mourn with families who have suffered these losses. We hold that sorrow and pray that they find peace and calm again. Take a deep breath. Today, we also hold sorrow for the many extinct or endangered species on this planet. We learned earlier this month that the wolverine, of which there are only 300 left, have been denied federal protections. We UUs know that all species are entangled in the interdependent web of being, and to lose another hurts the wholeness of us all. We hold sorrow and pray that the wolverine finds life and a friend in humanity. Today, we also hold all of those who are struggling with COVID, either directly through symptoms or through recovery, or indirectly through the emotional, spiritual, and physical changes that we have all been living through for much too long. We hold each other in these dreadful times in the hope that we may remember our highest values. Today, we also hold Dawn's 90-year-old mother, Joanne, who moved into a nursing care facility yesterday from assisted living. We hope that it is a safer and better place for Dawn's mother, and we hope that she will be happy and comfortable there. We hold Rose, who lost a friend from work this week to cancer, Laura Medici Fleming. She grew up going to USR and was a lifelong Ridgewood resident and a beloved teacher at Ridgewood High School for 37 years. We also lift up Kristen. Today is her Alzheimer's walk in memory of her father, Art, who died 4 years ago after living with the disease for 12 years. The walk is virtual this year, and she has set a goal of 10 miles, 20,000 steps. We hold Stephanie, who's concerned for her sister-in-law who is going through surgery tomorrow. May she emerge healthy and whole. We also hold Anita, who is thinking of Ira as he relearns to walk with his replaced knees. Both sadness and joy are hallmarks of life on this imperfect planet. Sometimes the sorrow can feel unmanageable, and we need the help of others to carry our burdens. And sometimes the joy can be so buoyant as to seem in danger of floating away from this planet. May our joys lift all others, and our sorrows be comforted by all. May we have the fortitude to hold each other through the cold winter months and the freedom of a perfect summer day. May it be so, and amen. For our second reading today, we will be reading a haiku from the Japanese poet Matsuo Basho. He is most famous for his crisp haikus. His poetry often calls us into introspection about the earth and ourselves. Basho wrote a haiku about a mushroom who unknowingly has a leaf on its back. Because these poems are in Japanese, there have been many translations. And so for this reading, we shall follow the story of this little mushroom and this one leaf through many translations of the same poem. From R.H. Blythe, the leaf of some unknown tree is sticking on the mushroom. From Lucian Strike, atop the mushroom, who knows from where, a leaf. From Takemitsu, mushroom does not know, that leaf is sticking on it. From John Cage, that's unknown brings mushroom and leaf together. And the musician John Cage wrote another translation of this poem that he liked more. What leaf? What mushroom? So, hello. I've been given to understand my voice came out a bit muffled there. Hopefully you can all hear me better now. This world has certainly made us all videographers and audio specialists that we never were. So I have a terrible fear of lightning. At one point in my life, I was unable to hear the sound of thunder without a sense of panic overtaking me. I could not be outside in a lightning storm or even in a car, going so far as to pulling over at a store to hide inside for the duration of the storm. Over the years, I have been able to overcome the most extreme elements of this fear. I can hold a butter knife inside while there is lightning, but the fear is something that is always a part of me. And while I recognize that this fear is irrational, as with so much in the world, it was a rational process that led to this irrational conclusion. You see, I grew up in the high mountains of Colorado, surrounded by scraggly pines and giant boulders. Even at the great heights of 10,000 feet, our house was surrounded by high cliffs and the peak of Mount Evans not far away. It was also built on an iron vein. So every time it would rain, it would lightning, and that lightning had few outlets other than our house or the pines. And it was so frightening because there was nothing that one could really do to protect oneself. One day, with blue skies all above and the rumble of a storm in the distance, from over a cliff wall, out of nowhere, a bolt of lightning rained down, exploding a tree in half. Lightning can be hotter than the surface of the sun, and when that much heat interacts with the water of the sap, the pressure causes fully grown trees to explode. Attracted by the iron in the ground, the lightning would strike our house often, destroying our water heater. Once it even traveled through the house, through our metal desk and into my brother. For weeks following, my brother and I tried to determine if he had been imbued with special superpowers. Could he run faster now? Could he move things with his mind? Could he control the lightning, shooting it from his fingertips like the Emperor in Star Wars? To my young mind, there was no place that one could hide from lightning, nothing that one could do in the face of lightning, and thus there was a comfort in the idea that my brother could control it somehow. And this tendency to tell stories about the earth and the natural world is not unique to children. Telling stories allows us to understand, to know, and thus to feel a sense of control and power over an earth that is so powerful. Ancient myths of gods controlling the thunder and the lightning, Zeus, Thor, Thunderbird, just to name a few, served not only as an explanation of the origin of such events, a sort of pseudoscience, but also as a way to cope with the reality of a world that is so much bigger than us. We still tell ourselves many stories about the natural world because the earth is still bigger than us. It may not be possible for us to engage the natural world without telling these stories. It is just simply too big, too much to know, and we have to live in and with it. And the earth has become less scary in a way. We have built modern conveniences of life so that the rainstorm may not even be noticed. whereas at one time it was the overriding concern for the day. But in some ways, the Earth has become enormously more frightening. Like Hades in Louis Gluck's poem, we are in danger of attempting to create our own Earth out of love, to steal the stars out of the night sky to populate our streets, to inoculate ourselves from the terror that the Earth can be. One story that we tell is that the Earth is hostile, or at best indifferent to us. And there is a truth to that story. Any of us who have been homeless even for a night know the hostility of the environment. It is this hostility, perhaps even this indifference, that led us to build shelters and use tools so as to be somewhat insulated from these environmental factors. And the buildings of the shelters made the beautiful music that we play and the books that we read possible. But this story also reads the Earth as a hostile army that we must conquer, a threatening beast we must break. In this story, the Earth is a place from which to extract resources into human benefit. And by the early 1800s in America, we got really good at this conquering. The growth of New York can be attributed to the building of the Erie Canal in the 1800s. It's a 363-mile-long trench that used the water of the Hudson and the Great Lake as a vehicle to further extract and transport the resources of the world. And little care was taken in the building of this dam. 1,000 human lives were lost in the process, and countless animal species died, and generations of animals were affected by disruptions to their traditional migration routes. But these were all seen simply as casualties of a war against the hostile elements and casualties that stood in the way of commerce. Obviously, this view of the Earth as hostile resulted in the world we live today, and we all benefit from, however uncomfortable, from this story. The food that we have shipped to our grocery stores relies upon the extraction of fossil fuels from around the globe. The waste systems that we have created are designed to facilitate forgetting, like corpses buried in a mass grave ringing the outskirts of our cities and towns. And the more that we learn about the Anthropocene, the name given to our quote unquote successful conquering of the Earth, the more we learn what the consequences are of viewing the Earth as a hostile thing to conquer and use. Climate change is real. So powerful has been the story of the hostile Earth that it is important to begin every discussion about the Earth and our place in its history with these 4 words. It positions us in a new narrative, one that becomes clearer every day as scientists reveal and discover new effects of our activities on this planet. Climate change is real, but that is only the beginning of the story. How we tell the story next may make all the difference. Although it isn't immediately apparent, there can be a comfort in the truth of climate change. We know that humanity has had a devastating impact on the Earth, such that the weather patterns have changed and glacial ice caps are melting. And it may sound strange, but not unlike my brother and I attempting to control the lightning with stories of his superpowers, the true story of climate change can offer us a sense of control. It makes the issue of the Earth seem almost manageable. We simply must just convince the powers that be to do something different, to change the way we interact with the environment. It makes the frightening changes of the Earth into a social problem with a social solution. It makes the enormity of the Earth feel like we can vote our way into a better relationship with it, or that we can science our way out of all of these problems. And there is a truth to that. We do need responsible leadership. We do need the tools of science. We do need social change committed to healing our planet so that we can try to mitigate the impact of climate change. But when the story ends there, we are missing something. The Earth is not under humanity's dominion. We can affect it, and we can know it, but never perfectly and never completely. The Earth is not just this simplistic entity any more than humans are simply beings. The metaphor of human doctor, Earth patient falls short when we reflect that the Earth has millions of species of flora and fauna. It is a complex, interrelated system co-creating the conditions necessary for our lives. The story of Earth patient, human doctor overstates our ability to control the Earth. And while science is truly amazing, it overstates the level of control and knowledge that science has. For the Earth is bigger than our knowing. And the truly terrifying thing about climate change is just how much we cannot know. We cannot know what the future will look like, how the Earth's systems will change, at least not in their entirety. We know that there will be more hurricanes. We know that the age of human-related extinction has begun. We know that some places on this planet will become even more hostile to life, such that even shelter cannot protect us. We also know that we do not know what effect our interventions will have on these trends. We do not know if it is too late, and we do not know what will happen if we try to reverse course. In this way, science is more like an interlocutor with the Earth than it is a knowing subject over inert matter. And in this dialogue, we can begin to feel a lot like Job in front of Job's God. If you remember, Job is the person in the Hebrew scriptures who states his case before God, lamenting the state of his life while standing firm in his righteousness. Whenever I'm called to think about the Earth, my first thought is the lightning of my childhood. The Earth is that which surrounds us and which has no bounds. Much like Job's God, my Earth appears to me in a storm, seemingly indifferent to our suffering and capable of heaping more of that suffering on in an instant. The Earth is terrible. Not in the weakened sense of awful like we might use to describe a poorly cooked meal, but in that robust sense of dread and trembling. The Earth is terrible, and I think of lightning striking a tree through the clear blue sky. But then I also remember the Russian word, which is usually translated as terrible, like in the sobriquet of Ivan IV, which is Ivan the Terrible. Grozny. But Grozny could also be translated as awesome. Again, not in that weakened way that so many of us millennials would describe a piece of pizza, but in the original form of inspiring great reverence and great dread. The Earth is both terrible and awesome. It is Grozny. By telling ourselves the story of an Earth that at once inspires dread and reverence, we may be so moved to sacrifice what is necessary to save ourselves and this planet. On the surface of Jupiter, there is a famous storm, the Great Red Spot, so big that 3 full Earths can fit inside of it. The Great Red Spot is not terrible. It does not inspire dread or reverence because it is over there. It has never been related to us in any meaningful way. The Great Red Spot of Jupiter is getting closer. While we live in a temperate climate that has remained largely untouched by climate change, there are some places on this Earth that are beginning to look like that big red spot, a harbinger of the future where Earth is no longer terrible or awesome. Like Hades' Earth in the Gluck poem It is a future where the earth can no longer hurt us because it is dead. One night as a child, I was awakened in the middle of the night to the terrible explosions of thunder announcing the flashes of lightning. I slipped out of bed, trembling, and I met my father in the kitchen. He was ecstatic with reverence. I remember that he picked me up on his shoulders and he took me outside. There in the moist air, in the glow following a late night storm, we watched the lightning in the distance. It was purple and it struck upward toward the heavens. Watching this seemingly impossible occurrence of the lightning shooting from the earth to the heavens seemed like a moment outside of time, like we are still there somehow, watching this phenomenon. Me on my father's shoulders, awestruck and trembling. The lightning, which was so close to me in my fear and my life, was also so beautiful and so unbelievable. By seeing it from afar, watching it strike not me, but the sky, I found the meaning of reverence. Reverence is knowing that something is infinitely more powerful than you, and knowing that it was awesome in that power. In our reading, Basho describes this terribleness in the calm image of a mushroom and a leaf. His poem captures the indeterminacy of being, a mushroom and a leaf coming together for no reason whatsoever. Lightning can strike anyone at any moment, following all of the laws of nature, following all the myths and stories that our collective brilliance can come up with. Sitting with and accepting the indeterminacy of being may be our only escape from the hubris of control. As John Cage's translation sings, "What leaf? What mushroom?" I could equally sing, "What lightning? What house?" Reverence for the earth means being the mushroom with the leaf unknowingly stuck to its back. It means being the children knowingly trembling beneath their covers because they have known the power that the earth holds. And it means knowing that our stories, while soothing, cannot match the power of the earth, which has held us all these many years. As we leave these Zoom rooms today, it is more important than ever that we notice those moments when no story will do, where the earth speaks to us not as something we tell, but as something that speaks to us in a language that we will never fully understand. So as we head out to coffee hour and re-enter the space of our homes and our lives, we let us open ourselves to those moments where we can clearly see the terrible awesomeness of this earth with which we co-create our existence, and where we can recommit ourselves to a life lived in its mystery. Thank you.
Please join us for our closing hymn, "For the Earth Forever Turning." For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures, in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us hope. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth.
So my home congregation always closes service with this quote from Theodore Parker, which I think is particularly apt on this occasion. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. Thank you all.
Please join us in the words for extinguishing the chalice. They can be found on your screen. We extinguish the flame, but may the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action burn bright in our hearts until we are together again.
Thank you for being with us this morning, everyone. Thank you, Olas, for a lovely service.